Welcome back to Disneyland Hotel Diaries. Okay, if you're planning a trip to the park, you know one thing is absolutely key. Location, location, location. And today, we're diving deep into a hotel that's about as close as you can possibly get, the Best Western Plus Anaheim Inn. I mean, look at this. You are literally steps from the gates. But this really is the whole story of this hotel, and it all boils down to one big question. Is that amazing convenience, being right there, actually worth the price tag and what you get inside the room? That's what we're going to find out. All right, so first up, let's pull back and look at the big picture. What are the numbers actually telling us? What do the thousands of guests who've stayed here really think? Okay, right off the bat, we're looking at a pretty strong 4.3 out of 5 stars, and that's based on almost 2,000 reviews, so it's not a small sample size. That's a really solid score. It tells you right away that most people who stay here walk away happy. And get this, in the super competitive Anaheim hotel scene, it's ranked number 34 out of 126 hotels. So yeah, it's definitely a popular spot. But the real story, the interesting stuff, is when you dig into the details. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you break down those ratings, boom, look at that location score, a 4.9, almost perfect. Service is also really strong at a 4.5. But then you see the score for the rooms, kind of lagging behind at 4.2. This, right here in these numbers, this is the entire story of this hotel. It's the big trade-off. So let's talk about that massive selling point first. I mean, we have to. It's that unbeatable, you cannot get any closer location. You don't even have to take my word for it. A guest, Andrea G., put it perfectly. She just said, this is the best hotel around, right across the street from Disneyland's entrance. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that, does it? So what does across the street actually mean for your trip? Well, check this out. It gets a 95 out of 100 score for being great for walkers. For anyone who's done a Disney trip, you know, that is a total game changer. We're talking no waiting for crowded shuttles, no half-mile trek back to the hotel with exhausted kids at midnight. You just walk across the street. That is a massive, massive plus. But, okay, the amazing location isn't the only thing people are raving about. Let's take a look at the other perks and, importantly, the service. So the hotel has a pretty solid lineup of the stuff you'd expect, right? There's a pool, free Wi-Fi, a fitness center, but the big one, the one that really matters for a Disney trip, is the free breakfast. Think about it. That can save a family a ton of money and, just as important, a ton of time every single morning. And the service? It sounds like it can be genuinely amazing. I mean, listen to this story from a guest named Kim C. Her daughter has some pretty serious food allergies. The breakfast staff didn't just point to what was safe, they literally went above and beyond and made her eggs completely separately. But here's the kicker. The next day, they remembered her and just did it for her again without being asked. Wow, that's not just good service, that's next-level care right there. Hey, real quick, if you're finding this breakdown useful for planning your own trip, would you do us a huge favor and take just a second to hit that like button and subscribe? It honestly helps us so much and lets us keep digging into more hotels just like this one. Thanks a bunch. All right, we've talked about the amazing location and the great service, but now it's time for a little reality check. Remember that lower score for the rooms? Well, there's a reason for that, and it all starts with the price. So what are we talking about here? You're often looking at a price tag of over $300 a night, and honestly, sometimes a lot more. And look, when you're paying that kind of money, you start to have some pretty high expectations for what the room is going to be like. And this, right here, is where a lot of guests feel a disconnect. One reviewer, Gruntled Dad, great name by the way, put it perfectly. He said, had this been a $50 to $100 motel, this would have been a reasonable place. And that really says it all, doesn't it? The feeling is that the quality of the room just doesn't line up with that premium price tag. And you can really see that disconnect right here. On one side, you've got the hotel exterior, which looks pretty nice, pretty modern, but then you see the inside of a typical room and, yeah, you can see why a lot of guests use words like basic or dated. It feels much more like an older motel than a $300 a night hotel. So if we boil down the main complaints from travelers, they really hit on a few key things. First, those rooms being basic and motel-like. Another big one is that since the room's open to an outside walkway, you can't really open your blinds without everyone seeing in, so you lose that natural light.
People also mention hearing noise through connecting doors, and a few guests have noted that the housekeeping wasn't always consistent.
Okay, so we've laid it all out on the table, the incredible highs and the pretty significant lows. So what's the final verdict here? Let's put it all together and figure out who this hotel is actually for.
When you get right down to it, it's a simple trade-off. The pros are massive: a location you just can't beat, service that can be amazing, and that money-saving free breakfast. But the cons are just as real: a really high price, rooms that feel dated and basic, and the chance of some noise. So this means the perfect guest for this particular hotel is a very specific type of person. It's for the traveler, the couple, or the family, where the number one non-negotiable priority is being as close to that Disneyland entrance as humanly possible. They want that 5-minute walk, and they're willing to pay a lot for that convenience, even if it means the room is more about function than luxury. And that really brings us to the one question you have to ask yourself before you book. For your Disney trip, with your budget, is that incredible, priceless 5-minute walk worth what a lot of people describe as a 3-star room? The answer to that question is going to tell you everything you need to know about whether this is the right hotel for you.